I was talking in a school in Hackney the other day to a bunch of sixth formers, and they were saying, are we really going to change? Is this going to change? Nothing's going to change. And I was like, well, when I was young, you could smoke on the tube, and you'd go down onto the tube, and the smoking carriage, and the door would open, and smoke would belch out. And I do think there's a chance. You could smoke at the back of the plane. Are you young enough to remember that?
No. Yeah.
So the back of the plane was the smoking area. There were like 3 or 4 rows,
so crazy.
and there was a little curtain across
to
stop the smoke getting down. And of course, most of the smokers would not sit at the smoking seats, but they'd go back to the smoking area to smoke. So this kind of unbelievable fog would
huff through the plane. Yeah,
I was saying to the kids, I do think there's a chance that we'll look back at the food system now in the way that I look back at that and think, wow, that was really weird. It was really weird that we lived in a world where you could smoke on the tube. It's really weird that we lived in a world where you went into a petrol station or a supermarket and 75% of the foods that they sold were stuff that was killing us. It's really weird that we lived in the world where the food system was so destructive of nature and carbon that actually it was a threat to our ability to produce food. And I do think that there is another future where that isn't the case.
Yeah, it's interesting that Matt Ridley, who wrote The Rational Optimist, says like good news travels quickly. Bad news travels fast. Good news travels slowly, and it's like you can't appreciate things happening. And I think is it the William Wilberforce bloke?
William Wilberforce.
Wilberforce.
He was the guy, the anti-slavery campaigner, and also the guy who was a key and founding the RSPCA as a.
Yeah, so that's the 1800, like that in 1800s, I think it's 1830s, whereby he's like, slavery was like, that was a thing then, and we look back at it now as it's been like one of the most heinous things that you could ever do. I'd love to know, and I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast the other day. I don't know, he's speaking to some comedians, like in 200 years' time, we're going to look back at some things as if those were the modern day equivalent of sort of slavery. I think one example he said is like how we incarcerate people now. It's like we've got all this technology, but it's still like repugnant the way we actually incarcerate people. The other thing he was saying was junk food. Like, what do you think the kids are going to be looking back on, saying like in 250 times they'll be doing their history lessons, they'll be looking at our period? What do you think they'll be looking at, thinking like, what were those human beings doing then,
In terms of our understanding, I think a couple of things will have happened, and that will affect the food system. So I think this complex biological system, these feedback loops between the soil, nutrient density, our gut biome, our mental health, our immune system, we will understand those systems because of big data in a way that we don't today. And I, as I said, I studied physics, calculus, which was invented at the end of the 18th century, simultaneously by Leibniz and Newton. Without calculus, none of modern physics would be possible. You couldn't have relativity, you couldn't have quantum theory, et cetera, you couldn't have fluid dynamics. And I think that the whole science of AI, but not AI large language models, AI management of big data is going to explode our understanding of those systems. And so what you will see in the future is, I think you'll have a combination of two food systems.
Sure.
You will have a system where fresh food is produced in a very different way, where nutrient density is prioritized, where we understand more than just hunger what these things are doing to us, and we're eating more fresh food better. But I think we'll also have, as Wegovy, Ozempic, this first range of GLP-1 agonists, as those doing, we will have the medicalisation of that as well. So we will have, as we understand this system, you'll have people who will work out how you can hack it in different ways. But I think it is inconceivable that we will not be, in either of those two ways, eating better and being more healthy. And so I think we'll just look back at it as a period of, it's of scientific, a kind of a bit of a scientific dark age where we realized there was a problem, but we didn't know how to solve it. We didn't know what was causing the problem. And I think that we'll see ourselves as, enlightened. And I can't see how, with the escalating cost and socialized cost, we go on doing what we're doing at the moment. In the States, if you look at how the system interacts in the States, it's really interesting. So you've got the fast-moving consumer goods companies, consumer product companies, who are really beginning to get frightened now by these appetite-suppressing drugs, because it's not only that they're making people eat less, they're actually, making them like cherries and fruit. And they more, I think, oh God, I don't really want Cheetos anymore. I want that. And so that is quite, so they're sitting there thinking, well, what's our purpose? How do we not lose 10 to 20% of our revenues?
What feedback loop is that? Sorry. So is that Ozempic? What was that? Is that escalating?
Ozempic is acting on the appetite. That is the thing that's, rather than change the commercial incentives of companies,
change the appetite.
Ozempic is changing the appetite.
And then, but is that escalating or reinforcing, or what's
that's breaking the escalating feedback loop?
Okay, with you, yeah.
So it is taking the junk food cycle and it is making your appetite it's changing your appetite so it doesn't respond to those things, so that it doesn't make you crave all the bad stuff. It makes you like good stuff and like less of it. That's what's going on there.
It's basically a miracle drug, really.
It's a miracle drug.
Yeah.
Well,
in some respects, yeah.
Some people, well, it's interesting. Some people think it will continue to be a miracle drug. Some people think that that you will, basically all drugs go through kind of 3 phases. The first phase is, it's quite interesting. The second phase, it's going to solve everything, and then the third phase is, I wouldn't give it to my dog. And so there are some people who are like, well, hold on a second. It clearly acts on your brain. Ooh, do we really know? And I don't think we know yet how that's going to play out. But anyway, you've got, it's breaking the junk food cycle in the States. And so, but not by attacking the commercial incentives, by changing the appetite. And so the fast food companies are frightened by it. The pharma companies, the drugs companies, Ozempic and Wegovy are the first of a whole array of drugs in this space. So there is a pipeline coming on for all the different companies of different drugs. Some of them are injections, some of them are pills. And the pharma companies are thinking, we will have that profit from the food companies. And then the insurers, so in the States, it's not the state that bears the cost, it's the insurers. And they're the ones who are doing what we would call nanny state interventions in America. So in the name of capitalism, they're subsidizing fruit and veg. They're teaching people to cook. They're, literally walking around supermarkets with people they insure to show them how to get a better diet, because they pay either way. They either pay for the appetite suppressing drugs or they pay for the amputations from type 2 diabetes. So I think that system is just fundamentally not sustainable. I cannot see how, through increased scientific knowledge and interventions, you don't get to a system where we look back at today and think that was just weird.
Espressos is sponsored by supply chain software gurus Unleashed. It talks to your e-com and accounting software. It's helped islands cut admin time in half, get granular clarity on your margins, know where your stock is, don't miss availability. Brands like Candy Kittens, Tiny Rebel, and Trip all use Unleashed, and so should you.